And God's purpose in salvation is not for Jesus to come into the world and to die on the cross with the hope that some people might be interested in him to believe and go to heaven. God is a God of purpose, and God has a perfect will, and God did not just think before the foundation of the world that, I think it'll be a good idea for Jesus to come and die with the hopes that some people might believe on him, and maybe we can have a couple people in heaven if enough people are interested in the gospel to believe on Jesus. Instead, what the scriptures teach is that before the foundation of the world, that God chose out a people for his glory, and chose out a people, and the word election simply means a choosing. Ephesians chapter 1 and verse 4, according as he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love. So this word election simply means a choosing. That's what we find in verse 4, according as he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world. So when did this choosing take place? It happened before the foundation of the world. And those that God chose, what was the basis of his choice? The basis of God's choice for a people to save was not based on something they would do. It's not based on works. It's not based on a future belief. Election is not foreknowledge. Election is not God choosing out those who he knew would choose him. Because we find in Psalms 14, we see that God looked out from heaven upon the children of men to see if there were any that did understand and seek God. And what God found when he looked out to see if there was anyone that would be obedient in the future. This is Psalm 14 verses 1 to 3, and this is verse 3. When he looked out to see if there were any that did understand, what God saw is that they are all gone aside. They're all together become filthy. There's none that doeth good, no, not one. So some people would say, well, God chose those that would choose him. Well, that's not very good news, because God looked out and said, well, there's no one that would choose me. So therefore, what's the basis of God's election? The basis of God's choice of a people to salvation is not a foreknowledge that someone would believe on him in the future. God's basis, God's reason why he chose out a people is simply by his grace.